Motion and a second. Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to item 23, Regional Wastewater Reclamation. It's a code text amendment.
Madam Chair?
And ordinance 2017-2. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address us in opposition? What's the pleasure of the board? Supervisor Christy.
On this particular issue, Supervisor Miller and I did meet with some folks on the Wastewater Commission. I have the luxury of being able to say that as the new kid on the block, there's a lot of issues and moving parts and questions that I have on the wastewater department that I think needs time to deliberate upon and to analyze. I can't read, though it's not related, but even my own water bill I have a hard time reading and understanding, and I think there's a lot of issues here that need to be discussed and presented to this board for another increase of a fee on this issue. I think requires some analysis and some discussion, and I would ask that at our next board meeting that the board hold a study session on this issue with presentation from the department and those for and against to be able to speak to it with at least an understanding that whoever speaks in favor of the raise in the fees will make an attempt to justify to the board and to the community why it is necessary, so it gives the board a lot better information on this. So I would move, if that's appropriate, that at the next board meeting that the Board of Supervisors hold a study session and hold off on their decision until the end of that study session at the next board meeting.
I would just suggest that you don't need a study session. I mean, we can have those discussions without it being a study session. Usually you don't take action in the study session. So if you just want to rehear it, make sure you get to hear both sides. It is a hearing. I think the motion would be better framed as a just continue, and we'll have the hearing.
And it's a public hearing.
Yeah, it is a public hearing.
It's already a public hearing, so
yeah.
it's better than a study session.
The study session, normally there's no action taken.
That would be more appropriate. I wouldn't have any objection to it, just so long as that all parties involved from the department and from the advisory board, as well as folks from the community who are in favor, who have dealings with this issue, will have their opportunity to present their beliefs and their feelings to the board, and we can get an explanation and ask questions as to why this fee increase is justified. And
you're amending the motion to make it just continuance with all of those cases.
But you're advising me that those issues can be addressed.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
yes, it's a hearing.
Without having to have a study session.
Correct.
Then I would amend my motion to not put it into a study session, but to have greater and wider discussion from all parties regarding this fee from the department, from the commission that oversees this, and from the public.
I'll second the motion. Okay, there's a motion. Second, Mr. Huck. Okay, Supervisor Elias and Mr. Huckleberry.
I don't know how you can have greater and wider discussion than a public hearing. And I feel really bad about that, Steve, because I kind of agree with you. But look how many people are here to discuss this item. It's a public hearing. It's been advertised. We've been talking about this for more than a year. And frankly, when when our own department held public hearings again, not hearings, but public meetings for people to come to, they held 2 of them. 0 people showed up at both meetings. Not a single person at either meeting, with the exception of one county supervisor who managed to find his way down here to the boardroom and watch a little bit of that hearing, and received the nice little presentation that was given to the Wastewater Advisory Committee. So I'm perfectly fine with your motion. I'm willing to give you that opportunity to learn some more, to hear some more. But this board is pretty well versed on this issue, and we continue to be. And frankly, I'm disappointed by the fact that the public has not been. Because I feel very concerned about our ratepayers who continue to pay and pay and pay, and you know, the residents of District 5, from Hollywood over to the east end of the district at Wilmot and Grant, down to the Pascoyaki Nation, all pay the same. And we've been getting beat up. I gotta tell you, because we've been here living in this community the longest. So it does bother me when I see this rate proposal come forward to us without any kind of increase to connection fees. That may not be a big bite, but I gotta tell you, in the meantime, I gotta go back and talk to people in my district who have been paying all their lives, just like this chubby, kind of comical District 5 supervisor. I've been paying all my life too. I'm a resident, and I'm very proud to be a resident, and I appreciate the services that wastewater provides to us, and they've continued to get better. And I remember a time when, frankly, the effluent that we put back into the Santa Cruz River was atrocious and bordered on damaging the public health. And now we have some of the best effluent in the United States of America going back into our river. And frankly, that's a big plus. And I certainly hope that the Clean Water Act stays in effect over the Santa Cruz River, because it's absolutely critical to this region. It's absolutely critical to our continued operations at wastewater. I don't want to see them underfunded. But on the other hand, I have not seen a lot of reaction from the public about this. The Wastewater Advisory Commission committee changed this proposal from being a 3-year proposal at 4% each year, a 4% increase each year. They changed it back to 1 year at 4%. So we're going to have this again. So take your time, take another week or two to learn about this. That's fine, and have some discussion at the public hearing. But this is not a new subject to any of us. And I'm sure it's not a new subject to you either, Steve, because I know you're a resident here, and I know you care about this community. We've spoken many times about that. I'm very proud of you in articulating that to us all. But let's take that time. But recognize, a lot of us have been at this for a while too, and that there's a legacy related to our wastewater system. There's a legacy related to it. The legacy that we're creating now is about clean water and public health. And that's what it should be.
Thank you, Supervisor. Mr. Huckleberry and then Supervisor Milner.
Madam Chair and members of the board, I'm just going to suggest that if you do continue public hearing to a time certain at the next meeting, and then we'd be more likely to have people who would want to show up and give you testimony and express their opinion.
Well, that's fine, Mr. Huckleberry, and you know, I'm cool with that. I want to have some people talk, but in the meantime, I'd also like to hear about the methodology for how we put out notice about those public meetings, about what times they were held, about what's the best interest of the community being able to participate in those, and I'd also like to hear back on how we could do better, because obviously we didn't do so good.
What about if we did a time certain at 10:30? Would that work for everybody?
Not for me.
Okay.
As long as we don't cut into
So you'll amend the motion
audience
to include 10:30 time certain?
I'm sorry, tell me that again.
Oh, just make it a time certain so people know that they don't have to, and I was suggesting 10:30, that gets them past rush hour, that gives them some opportunity to park and get here.
Well, certainly, anything to make it a convenient element. I'm just looking at the agenda here. There's no one here from wastewater to question.
No, he's right over there.
And Carmine's right next to him.
Okay. Are you, well, I would prefer to have a public hearing set at the next meeting. I appreciate you being here. This, I think, will give you an opportunity to have a more deliberative way of approaching it, that the public can take part of it too. So if there's a time that we can do it and post it I'm in favor of amending my motion to include that.
I would suggest 10:30 if that's amenable to the
10:30
supervisor.
is amenable.
Okay, so the motion is so amended.
Well, Madam Chair,
Madam Chair,
we're going to go into discussion.
Yeah,
Okay, please.
Supervisor Miller.
Personally, I'd like to see a study session because I'd like to see this board roll up their sleeves and understand wastewater better and line out some areas that we could make cuts in because I believe they're there. We went through this last year. I spent hours and hours, whole weekends, reading the wastewater background material, and what ended up happening is Mr. Jenkins actually said it's a good thing the board didn't approve those rate increases that they requested. We have that on your meeting minutes of the Wastewater Advisory Board. After prior to the election, we made a motion not to approve these increases. So I think it's extremely important that we have a very robust discussion. I would really like to see the study sessions, and certainly Supervisor Christy being new deserves to have, with the binders full of material that I have, I think he deserves to get a presentation and some background material on this. The other thing regarding Supervisor Elias's comments about the public not being here, look at the time of day, it's 12:30. And this gets back to whether or not this board is willing to consider meeting at night so that the citizens of this community will have the opportunity to be here. A lot of people work, you know. They can't afford to take the day off. They can't afford to take their children out of daycare. It's very difficult for people to get here, and I'd really love to see this board at some point be willing to consider that. But since, you know, I'm guessing that we can't get a study session here, I'd really like to see a study session, but I will go along with the public hearings and look forward to that at the next meeting.
Thank you, Supervisor. I would remind the supervisor that the meetings that wastewater conducted were all in the evening or on the weekends.
No, there was one in the evening and there was one in the daytime in the morning for
And
this
wasn't
particular
there-
item.
And then, well, this was over a period of time. because I
Right.
remember-
That's what
Okay.
that's why I said for this particular item.
Okay,
And I'm okay with that. I just wanted to comment though, you know, is that whatever you want to call it, we roll up our work. We roll up and work all the time. You can use all the clever cliches that you want to about rolling up your sleeves or whatever you want to call it. This board has worked very hard on the issue of wastewater over the time that I've been on the board. Admittedly, that's only been 14 years, but I look at the changes we've made. Look at the improvements that we have made. Frankly, I think we're on a good track. And I believe we need to be careful because I think the ratepayers are becoming, frankly, pretty beat up by this whole thing. Pretty beat up by the whole thing. But I'm not willing to take a step back on the issue of public health, on the issue of clean water, or the Clean Water Act affecting the Santa Cruz River. District 5, we took a beating. We took a beating back in the TCE days. I'm not going back to that. We have entire generations of my population and my residents that are missing. And yeah, that was on the water side of the equation rather than the wastewater equation. But we may be from District 5, but we ain't stupid. We know that both sides of that equation affect the public health. We'll never back away from that. But if you think we're going to cut corners and let people suffer from poor water quality and let the river suffer ultimate pollution and damage to the aquifer and to our ongoing water source, no way, no how, not going to happen.
thank you, Supervisor. If there's no further discussion and if there are no objections, we'll continue this item until our next meeting.
Madam Chair, just a question. How will that appear will that be like an addendum, excuse me, an agenda item for a public hearing?
Yeah, it would be continued, just like we did with Rito Park.
And to Supervisor Lee's point, it will be posted publicly so folks have adequate time and knowledge of the event that they can speak to it as well during that public hearing.
Yeah, it's a public hearing, absolutely.
I think
With a time certain at 10:30.
just to really quickly summarize, I think basically, Supervisor Elias is making my point anyway. There is a lot of issues here. There have been a lot of issues here. I'm sorry to say it again, but I will. I'm the new kid on the block, and when I go to my constituents and they talk about a rate increase of this nature, I should be able to speak cogently about it. And that's why I'm asking that this be put off so we can have that discussion. I think Supervisor Elias makes some great points that should be discussed in the open in a public hearing, and I'm all in favor of it. And I thank the rest of the board for understanding my position and for also letting me know how to best maneuver and massage this issue so we can all benefit from the knowledge that comes out of it. Thank you.
It is a complex issue, and I appreciate your patience with us. If there's no further discussion, we've got a time certain next meeting for 10:30. Are there any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to